Hello and welcome back to another recording session for Monster Hunter World. Or, I should say, Monster Hunter World Iceborne. As of the day of recording this, Iceborne just came out yesterday, and after waiting for 7 hours for it to download and install, we're back again with our Hunter Elta. And while Iceborne just came out, I'm not going to be able to actually get to the content probably for a couple more sessions, depending on how much progress we make here, since I haven't cleared the base Monster Hunter World game. But we will start working on doing that in a rather expeditious manner, so we can get to the newer stuff. I will say that this is the first time I'm recording anything with Monster Hunter World since installing Iceborne, and looking at everything that I have running on my other monitor here, I have my sound recording software for the voiceover, and I have OBS recording the actual gameplay. And then obviously we have Monster Hunter World running, and the game is running a little bit choppier than I'm used to seeing. Looking at the readout on my recording software, it's saying my system usage is tapped out at almost 100%. And I know people have been reporting some slight performance issues with World since it came out. The system intensity or usage intensity is probably one of those main things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to record this session and hopefully everything stays stable and nothing crashes. Probably between now and the next couple sessions of recording, depending on how my schedule works out. I mentioned in some other videos that I'm upgrading my computer. My main PC that I do all my art projects on and video editing and recording is the one that I have to install Windows 10 on. And at some point soon, my friend Flammy is going to help me upgrade a bunch of the core components, specifically the CPU and RAM and some of my storage and the motherboard. I'm hoping, since I'm going to be upgrading to a stronger processor than I have now, it'll be a bit more in sync with some optimized performance for Monster Hunter World. But that might not be for maybe another week or so. In the meantime, we'll see how this recording session goes, and when I edit the footage, I'll make a decision on if I want to wait or continue to record. As long as it doesn't start randomly crashing on me, I think I'll be okay. Before we jump back into our quests, and I did do some work off camera in between the last recording session and this one. First thing, if we go over here to our Palico and Yami, you can see that he's sitting on a huge pile of new items. What I did in my free time after recording the last session is I went and I did all of the side quests to unlock all the additional tools Palicos can get. And what I can do is real quickly explain what they do. We've been using the Vigor Wasp spray up till now, which is basically healing and the ability to put down a static heal that'll sit there on the field till you use it. The next thing I unlocked from the Wildspire Waste is the Flash Fly, or technically, this one's from the forest, the Flash Fly Cage. This gets planted by your Palico out in the field, and it can be used like a flash bomb to blind the monsters. Not too bad. I never really used this one in my other playthrough, but it could be useful for fighting things that fly a lot. The Shield Spire is a defensive gadget that the Palicos can use. They can use it to provoke and pull aggro from the monsters, and as you level it up, their ability to guard and tank hits increases. The Choral Orchestra is another pretty useful weapon. This one allows them to play buff songs, which improve as you level the weapon up, and they have different effects on who you're playing. The one that I have equipped now came from the Rotten Vale, and that's the Plunder Blade. Probably, in my opinion, the best Palico gadget you get for a long time. This one allows your Palico to steal things from the monsters. When you're out fighting targets, they'll throw this Plunder Blade and it'll drop shinies. And as you level up the skill, it'll get the ability to jump on the monster and just start smacking it endlessly and dropping additional shinies that you can sell for money, which is very handy for stacking up cash. I will be keeping that one on Yami probably for the foreseeable future. And the last one that I unlocked from the Elder's Recess is the Molotov Cocktail. This is an area effect bomb that the Palico throws. I didn't unlock this one in my previous playthrough because I never bothered to do the side quest, but if you want to gear up your cat with artillery bombs, then this is a pretty good tool to equip. I don't know if the thrown bombs can knock you over. In previous games, when your cats threw bombs, they would have the ability to interrupt you. But I don't know if that works the same way here in World. For now, we'll keep the Plunder Blade on. We can always use more cash. And let's see. What I'd like to do... Our objectives are going to be a little bit specific, which I'll go into once we get ready to proceed. When we last left off, we had the Track the Elder Dragons mission. There's 3 different Elder Dragon track quests. And I think they kick off when we talk to the NPCs, but you also gather tracks to unlock the quests in the field. But before we do that, what I want to do is, one, switch back to the Greatsword. I've been running around with the glaive for a little bit, doing side quests. But I believe, even though we are able to access the new expansion stuff in Iceborne, we do get the mechanical tweaks that came with the game. So what I'd like to do with the Greatsword is go into the training area and talk through that real quick. The Clutch Claw. Okay. With Iceborne, a new item that was added to the Hunter Arsenal is something that is comparable to the Slinger.
You can use the Slinger with your weapon drawn. Look for the perfect moment, then fire.
That's another new thing. If we put our sword out and hit L trigger, we can actually use our Slinger to fire with right trigger. And also, before I forget, one thing that they did in this new version of the PC build, which you can look at by the button prompts, they gave the ability to change the controls over to the PlayStation controls, which absolutely blows my mind that they did that. Not having to switch my brain over to the Xbox controls since I'm using a PS4 controller is just phenomenal. I'm incredibly glad they did that. It's going to make a lot of things, discussion-wise, easier for our playthrough here. Anyway, back to the sword. If we hit right trigger or left trigger, we can shoot Slinger with right trigger. The Greatsword, I never played with on the console version of Iceborne, so I need to sort of figure out what they changed. The tackle to jumping wide slash, which I don't use super often, looks like it's the same. I know the ability to work in your Slinger bursts with the True Charge is something new. Ah, there it is. The Slinger burst, which we can get by hitting L2 in mid combo. And then we hit triangle again. It's a shortcut straight to the True Charge. In other words, in the past we would have to go like this, drop a regular, pull back into a strong, and then pull back into the true. Or we charge up, tackle, strong, tackle, true. Now, with the Slinger burst, if we go into a charge, hit L2, and immediately go back again with the triangle, it shortcuts all the way to True Charge, which is incredibly powerful. I've seen some people do some pretty nutty things with this in Iceborne, so that'll be a lot of fun. If we can get the monster into a vulnerable state, getting to the true charge is going to be even easier, provided we have slinger ammo. Now I wonder if you can do it. Yep, all you have to do is drop your weapon down and then pop the slinger burst and then immediately go into the true charge. That's great. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's see what else we got. That looks like it's the same. And with focus slotted in, that makes our overall damage a lot faster. Now, before we move on, let's take a look at the clutch claw. If we hit L2 to go into aim mode, like we would with our slinger, instead of hitting right trigger, if we hit circle, we get this grappling hook thing that shoots out. I like Batman. That grappling hook is the clutch claw. And this one functions differently from the slinger in that it is not only an offensive tool that does damage, it also is a mobility tool that'll allow you to grapple onto things. And let's see if we can talk to the cat and have the cat switch our targets. There we go. This wagon here is going to function like a monster, so we can demonstrate the clutch claw dynamics.
A monster to grapple to it.
There you go. If we use the reticle while we have L2 pressed, different parts of the monster will lock and snap to the targeting reticule. If we hit circle,
you can move around while grapple to a monster.
We'll grapple on the monster and our stamina will start to tick down. You can dismount by hitting X and just drop straight down. If you grapple to the monster and hit triangle, you have a weapon attack.
The spot you hit has been softened up.
As the field team leader says, each weapon does different things when you grapple on and use triangle. The heavier weapons like greatsword, once you grapple to that point of the monster and the attack goes off, it creates a weak point which will do more damage to the monster and soften up tougher parts. It's pretty handy for monsters that have tough hides for your damage type, and some monsters require that you soften them up in order to effectively hit them and break parts. That's a useful thing. If we also grapple to the monster and
sending a monster flying into a wall will leave it wide open to attack.
I should have eaten.
Keep a close eye on your stamina. Grappling onto a monster will burn through it in a hurry.
If we grapple and hit circle, we have a clutch claw attack which does a little bit of damage, but when done to an actual monster in a fight, you can get the monster to change directions. And the reason why you want to do that is if you grapple the monster's head and then hit right trigger, you fire off all of your slinger ammo and you cause the monster to go shooting off in the direction that it's facing, provided you do this on its head. And the reason why that's important is if the monster is near a wall or an obstacle and you do that, it'll crash into the wall, take a decent amount of damage, and fall over and be vulnerable. The wall smash, or wall yeet as I've heard some people call it, is really important for disrupting monsters' attack patterns and getting them into a vulnerable state. The mechanics of the fight with things like the clutch claw change pretty considerably in Iceborne as a result. And it'll be interesting trying to work that in with the greatsword, since all my experience on the console pretty much was with the gunlance. But that's a quick and dirty run through of the clutch claw. Basically, you can use it to grab onto monsters, weaken their parts, or use it to smash them into walls. It'll change the way we fight a little bit, and I'm probably going to suck with it for a bit, but it'll definitely make things interesting. what we'll do is we'll go back to headquarters. I'll explain a little bit about what my objectives are in this particular session. When I was running side quests and doing some expeditions and running around the field, I encountered some monsters in high rank that I was able to take out that we haven't fought on camera yet. Some of the smaller monsters we encountered, like the big chubby lizard Dodogama, was one of them. But if you mosey on over to the capture site, you see something that looks like a gigantic pine cone on steroids. And we have not officially encountered this monster on the playthrough yet. But this thing is Basilgeuse. And if I go to my wish list, it should show me what my current goal is. The Basil Vambraces. I'll go up to the workshop and explain how I'm going to be crafting a new set for my greatsword. But basically, this monster is a flying type wyvern. Its name has been the subject of a lot of debate because I don't think any of the characters ever say its name in the game proper like some of the other ones. This one doesn't get a regular intro because once you get to high rank, Basil has a very high chance to just invade your quests randomly, and it'll show up and ruin your day. A lot of people call it the goose. Some people thought it was basil juice, kind of like the star beetle juice. It's spelled the same way. In Japanese, it's written as Bazelgeuse, so that's why I call it Basilgeuse. Or I'll just call it Basil. People call it the bagel too. But we need one more tail. I did run this one a couple times out in the field, playing around with the glaive. I have not tried that monster with the greatsword yet. But let me run up to the workshop, and I'll explain the gear that I want to make for the greatsword set.
There you are, Flavor. Stay tough.
Oh, that's right, we can forge layered armor now too. This is a new change with Iceborne. In the past, layered armor was unlocked through different things, but in Iceborne it's crafted. As long as you have materials to unlock them, you can craft the sets, and they show up here now, and it's actually tied to the endgame grind, which we'll see probably a lot later. But I can also show the pre-order bonus layered gear. I'll slap that on before we go out into hunts. A couple things, let's see. The Damascus set, this opened up after we beat Nurg, I believe. The Basil set, which was unlocked after killing the giant flying pine cone, looks like this. It's sort of this scaled, kind of lion-looking armor. It's got a really, really neat theme to it. I like the way that the Basil set looks a lot. The Alpha helm has earplugs and blast attack. The chest piece has guard and blast resistance. The hands have critical draw and earplugs. The waist has earplugs and jump master, and the feet has bombardier and critical draw. The beta set looks like this. Slightly different. The fringe pattern and material is a little bit different on the beta. It's a similar looking set, but slightly different. And these have pared down versions of the skills, but more slots. And what I decided to make are the hands. If we unequip this and compare, the Zora Magdaros set and its 3-piece bonus are pretty good for blast and status synergy. But with the greatsword, we don't do a lot of hits in conjunction with the blast buildup. Something like the Insect Glaive would benefit more from having the set bonus for Zora, but Greatsword, I figured we can slot things out and optimize a set for Greatsword skills a little bit more. And in order to do that, what I decided to do is swap out the Castodon hands for the Basil hands to get crit draw on the build. And in order to keep the point and focus, I'm going to craft the Damascus Waist. So let's see, we put this on here, put this on here. It'll change our look a little bit, but not too dramatically. Doing this will give us Blast Attack level 3, Focus 3, Handicraft 2, Crit Draw 2, and Attack Boost. Eventually, as I get more decorations, I'll be able to build my skill loadout a little bit more specifically for Greatsword. But right now, this will be slightly more focused than just the generic high rank set that I had before. For the Insect Glaive, I'm going to keep the loadout that we saw before I went into this mode. And I'll probably keep that on there for at least the remainder of the game until some better stuff opens up later. There is an Elder Dragon coming up, but it should give us a good foot piece to swap out on that other build. Since we don't need focus for the Insect Glaive, we can swap the Jura Greaves for that piece, and I think it gives you Handicraft. But for now, we're going to go ahead and do this. Hopefully, if I have a Basil quest, I can go out there, I can show off the fight a little bit, and you guys can watch me utterly fail with the Greatsword, since that's a tough fight. But if we can get one more tail piece, then we'll be able to craft this. We can craft this now, but there's no point until I swap the other piece out, since we don't really get too much of a benefit from it. If there's anything else in the weapons menu for us to do at the moment, I kind of wonder if the Iceborne update added layers onto the Defender. Nope. We are currently maxed out at Defender Sword, Greatsword 5. This will take us into Master Rank most likely. And once we get to Master Rank, I think its usefulness will taper off, and we'll have to start crafting Master Rank gear